Namaskar, good evening. You are watching Rajya Sabha television. I am Smriti Rastogi with News Tonight. Let's begin the bulletin with the top headlines. India and Russia seal $5 billion deal for the S-400 Triumph missile system. Both sides sign 8 agreements after talks between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Agreement inked on cooperation for Gaganyaan mission. World is changing, but India-Russia friendship has never changed, says Prime Minister Narendra Modi at India-Russia Business Forum. Expresses hope that bilateral trade growing at 20% per year will touch $30 billion by 2025. Pakistan fomenting trouble in Jammu and Kashmir, asserts Home Minister Rajnath Singh. Says continuous efforts are on to normalize the situation, highlights successes in curbing Naxalism. Denis Mukwege and Nadia Murad win 2018 Nobel Peace Prize for their fight against sexual violence as a weapon of war. Gynecologist Mukwege has treated thousands of rape survivors in Congo. Yazidi woman Murad was held as a sex slave by ISIS. She is the UN Goodwill Ambassador for Dignity of Survivors of Human Trafficking. And Team India get a firm grip on the Rajkot test. By close of play on the second day, West Indies struggling at a 94 for 6 in the first innings in reply to India's 649 runs for the loss of 9 wickets. India and Russia inked 8 agreements on Friday, including one on the multi-billion-dollar S-400 Air Defense Missile System Agreement. Agreements were signed after Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin held bilateral talks during the 19th annual India-Russia Bilateral Summit.
India and Russia signed the $5 billion S-400 air defense system deal after wide-ranging talks between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin in New Delhi on Friday. In a joint statement, both leaders expressed happiness over the agreement. Both also expressed their intention to further strengthen defense relations.
19 शिखर सम्मेलनों की निरंतर श्रृंखला से हमारी स्पेशल और प्रिविलेज स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप को लगातार नई ऊर्जा और दिशा मिली है और वैश्विक मामलों पर हमारे सहयोग को नए मायने एवं मकसद भी मिले हैं.
8 agreements were signed in the field of space, nuclear energy and railways, along with a crucial MOU on cooperation on India's space mission project Gaganyaan. A new action plan was also announced for cooperation in the field of nuclear power.
हमारा अंतरिक्ष में अगला लक्ष्य भारत के गगनयान में भारतीय अंतरिक्ष यात्री को भेजना है. मुझे बहुत खुशी है कि आपने इस मिशन में रूस के पूरे सहयोग का आश्वासन दिया है.
Earlier, Prime Minister Modi and Russian President Putin held bilateral talks in a closed-door meeting on issues of mutual interest. India and Russia also asked all countries to fully implement the Paris Agreement on climate change while committing to promote green development and low-carbon economy.
According to the agreements that we possess, based on Russian high-tech technologies, we plan to build 12 power units in the next 20 years in India. We have touched upon strengthening our cooperation in industry and investment. We talked in particular about machine building, metallurgy, agriculture, medicine, pharmaceuticals, and biochemical technologies.
After the summit, the two leaders took part in a joint business summit where Prime Minister Modi invited Russian businessmen to invest in India.
सरकार यह भी मानती है कि इस काम को हमें जल्दी से जल्दी करना है और निश्चित तौर पर इसमें आपका भी सहयोग चाहिए। हम आपको भारत में बन रही विशाल बिजनेस अपॉर्चुनिटीज का लाभ उठाने के लिए आमंत्रित करते हैं।
Modi and Putin later interacted with young talent drawn from India's Atal Innovation Mission and Russia's Serious Education Center. Modi urged youths of both countries to work at innovations to improve living standards of the poor and the needy. An MOU was also signed between AIM and Serious to further their cooperation.
आज के युग में हम गूगल गुरु के जमाने में हैं। कुछ भी पूछना है तो गूगल को पूछो, कुछ भी जानना है तो गूगल से जानो, और उसके कारण गूगल गुरु के जमाने में टीचर का महात्मा कहीं कम न हो जाए, ये हमने सतर्क रहने की जरूरत है। जानकारियां देने के लिए तो बहुत रास्ते होते हैं, लेकिन जिंदगी बनाने के लिए कोई न कोई हमें उंगली पकड़ करके चलाने वाला चाहिए।
This was the 19th annual summit between the two countries and the second meeting this year between Prime Minister Modi and President Putin. Both had an informal summit at Sochi in May. In his last engagement of the day, Putin called on President Rajnath Singh.
The signing of S-400 deal shows India's assertion to the world. It shows that India is not going to bow down to any pressure. It shows that India has independent foreign policy and also autonomous defense policy. Akhilesh Suman for Rajya Television with camera person Raj Thakur in Delhi.
On to some more developments. Home Minister Rajnath Singh held Pakistan responsible for the problems in Jammu and Kashmir. He was addressing a summit in New Delhi on Friday. Rajnath Singh also said that government is committed to strengthening the situation in the valley and is consistently working to improve the situation there. The minister also called Naxalism a big challenge for the country, while highlighting the government's efforts to weed out Naxals. Singh also underlined that the government is not tolerating any violence. He said that anyone can say anything about the government, their ideology and philosophy can be different, but people may or may not agree with it. But by no means can violence be promoted in India. The Home Minister also said that urban Naxalites are working to provoke violence. He termed as unfortunate the Tiwari murder case in Lucknow. Two National Conference workers were killed in a terror attack in Srinagar on Friday, just days before local body polls in the state. The terrorists opened fire at political workers in Karfali Mohalla area, killing National Conference workers Nazir Bhatt and Mushtaq Wani. Shakil Ahmed, a Halka president of the National Conference, was critically injured. The National Conference termed the killing of the two of its workers barbaric. PDP chief Mehbooba Mufti has also condemned the terror attack. The BJP and Congress also condemned the killings of the NC workers in the state. The first phase of polling for the local body elections will be held on 8th of October. Both National Conference and PDP are boycotting the elections over Section 35A, which gives special status to Jammu and Kashmir. The Reserve Bank of India kept key lending rates unchanged in its fourth bi-monthly policy review on Friday, but warned physical slippages and surging crude oil prices. The central bank retained GDP growth estimate at 7.4% for the current fiscal. Meanwhile, RBI Governor Urjit Patel said that the depreciation of rupee against dollar has been moderate in comparison to other emerging economies.
The RBI has maintained status quo on its key short-term lending rates at the end of its three-day Monetary Policy Committee meet. The repo rate has been left at 6.5%, while the reverse repo rate stays at 6.25%. However, the central bank has changed its stance on key policy rates to calibrated tightening from neutral. This indicates that the apex bank is of the view that there is an upward pressure on interest rates. The RBI also lowered its retail inflation projection for the second half of the current fiscal to 3.9 to 4.5%, mainly because of an unusually benign trend in food prices.
The risk of high input costs being passed through into retail inflation. Accordingly, The trajectory for inflation is set to rise from the current level from Q4 2018-19. Excluding the HRA impact, CPI inflation is projected at 3.7% in Q2 of this financial year.
The RBI asserted that excise cut in petrol and diesel will moderate retail inflation, but warned that a rise in oil prices may have a bearing on disposable incomes and dent profit margins of corporates. The RBI governor also lauded the government's decision to manage the crisis in IL&FS. He also said that the recent fall in the rupee is moderate compared with other emerging markets.
Well-structured institutional measures taken by the central government in the IL&FS case have been timely and appropriate. These have helped to stabilize the situation. The Reserve Bank will engage with the new management, if necessary, on assistance in its efforts going forward.
Following the monetary policy review, stock markets ended lower on Friday. The BSE Sensex lost 792 points or 2.25% to settle at 34,377, while the broader NSE's Nifty 50 index dropped 283 points or 2.7% to close at 10,316. A total of 4 out of 6 MPC members voted in favour of status quo. The Apex Bank had hiked lending rates in its last 2 policy meetings. Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
And with that, we'll head into a very short break. More news and updates on the other side. Stay with us.
Watch The Big Picture with me, Frank Rausen Pereira, at 9:30 p.m.
Rabindranath Tagore was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913 for his book Gitanjali. In 1950, he composed the music and lyrics for India's national anthem, Jana Gana Mana. And when Bangladesh became independent in 1971, they chose Tagore's song, Amar Shonar Bangla, as its national anthem. Tagore's life and works have made him a cultural icon, studied the world over, even into the 21st century.
First up, National Digital Communications Policy 2018.
So what it aims is to provide a ubiquitous, affordable, convenient communication infrastructure to the people of India.
Let's take a closer look at online incorporation of limited liability partnership.
I welcome this move because I think LLPs are very good ideas in a country where a lot of young people are trying to be entrepreneurial, and making it simpler for them to do that is not a bad idea at all.
You can get a title for your company, the partnership. Let me not call it a company, partnership. It's similarly incorporation certificate, as also your DIN number and TAN or a PAN registration to be done online, which is earlier it was not covering LLPs.
Enter the majestic forecourt of Rashtrapati Bhavan and you'll come across the Jaipur column. A gift to the Viceroy from Savai Madho Singh, the Maharaja of Jaipur, to commemorate the creation of the new capital. The 145-meter high column is crowned with 6 pointed crystal stars on a bronze lotus, and inside the stone shaft runs a steel tube which weighs a little more than 5 tons. The base of the column has text conceived by Lord Irwin and Sir Edwin Lutyens inscribed on it.
Art arisen from a multi-hued cultural canvas.
Tradition and cultural fervour dating back centuries. And encircling them all, there's a magic that awes. Embrace your nation's brilliant human warmth. Watch Colours of India, Sundays at 9:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu has called for making organ transplantation affordable. Addressing the 29th conference of Indian Society of Organ Transplantation Society in Hyderabad today, he said that organ donation is a noble cause and it should be made into a mass movement. He appealed to authorities, NGOs, doctors and others to make people aware of the importance of organ donation. Terming it one of the noblest causes, he said that with increasing cases of organ failures, the demand too is rising. He suggested that the use of Make in India program to promote manufacturing medicines and devices in India at an affordable price.
Organ donation is one of the noblest causes today. With the development of science and advanced technology, the field of organ transplantation has increased exponentially world over and also in India. With the increasing number of end organ failures of kidney, liver, heart, lung and pancreas, the demand for organs too has been rising tremendously. Although there is a huge requirement for donated organs in the country, only a minuscule number are getting them. Of the 85,000 liver failure patients on the waiting list annually, less than 3% get the organ. Similarly, while the 2 lakh kidney failures patients registered for organ transplantation, only 8,000 get kidney and barely 1% get heart, lung amongst the thousands of wait list. That is the reality. But we must educate the people. There is a leap in cadaveric organ donations over the last 4 or 5 years. Yet the demand supply remains hugely unmet with. This is because of low rates of organ donation in India at 0.8% million population.
Human rights activist Nadia Murad and physician Denis Mukwege will be given this year's Nobel Peace Prize. Committee chairperson Berit Reiss-Andersen announced their names at a ceremony at the Norwegian Nobel Institute in Oslo today. Murad and Mukwege won the award for their efforts to end the use of sexual violence as a weapon of war. Murad was captured by ISIS militants in 2014 and has spoken out about the abuse she suffered at their hands. In November 2017, she published her story in The Last Girl, My Story of Captivity and My Fight Against the Islamic State. Mukwege, a Congolese doctor, has spent his life working with victims of sexual violence in the Democratic Republic of Congo. This year, the field of possibilities facing the 5 members of the Norwegian Nobel Committee was pretty wide, with 331 individuals and organizations proposed for the prestigious prize. Winners will be conferred the prize on 10th of December.
Jambo lisilofaa kwa Kifaransa wanaita reparation. Ni muhimu sana kama dunia sasa, ile ambayo tunaomba zaidi ni kusema dunia ikubali kama wamama wote ambao wamepitia shida, ikiwa wanakubali kama walipitia shida, ni lazima wamama wapate pia reparation.
In the latest setback to the Sharif family, PMLN President and former Punjab Chief Minister Shahbaz Sharif was arrested for alleged involvement in 2 corruption cases. Pakistan's opposition leader Shahbaz Sharif was arrested by the National Accountability Bureau, Lahore, on Friday in what is being referred to as the Ashiana-e-Iqbal housing scheme scam. Nawaz Sharif's brother was arrested for his alleged involvement in awarding contracts to his favourite firm in violations of rules in the Ashiana housing scam and Punjab Saaf Pani Company. He will be kept in a highly secured lockup inside NAB Lahore office until his appearance before an accountability court for remand on Saturday. US President Donald Trump unveiled a new counter-terrorism strategy identifying Pakistan-based terror outfits Lashkar-e-Taiba and Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan as potential threat to the US. The National Strategy for Counter-Terrorism issued a tough warning to terrorist groups and their supporters that the United States will defeat its enemies with the full force of American might. The strategy also names Boko Haram, in addition to ISIS and Al-Qaeda and dozens of other radical Islamist terrorist groups. According to the strategy, these organizations will probably prioritize regional goals over attacks against the homeland or United States interest because of resources constraints or political considerations. The strategy for counterterrorism focuses efforts on pursuing terrorists to their source and isolating terrorists from their support. The strategy represents United States' first fully articulated counter-terrorism strategy since 2011. And the US has also stepped up pressure on Pakistan to renew an effective campaign against terrorists. The Trump administration officials in their meetings with Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi this week also talked about the suspension of the US security assistance since early this year. The Trump administration had announced in January that it would suspend nearly all security aid to Pakistan over its failure to crack down on terrorist networks. The president of Interpol, Meng Hongwei, has been reported missing after he traveled to China at the end of September. Meng Hongwei's wife reported on Friday that she had not heard from her husband since he left Lyon in France a week ago. In a statement, Interpol said it was aware of reports about Meng's disappearance and added that this is a matter for the relevant authorities in both France and China. Few reports in Chinese media say Meng did arrive in China and was taken away for questioning. Chinese officials have so far made no public comments on the issue. France has opened an investigation into Meng's disappearance. And sports news now. India is headed towards a huge win in the first test match against the West Indies in Rajkot. After a phenomenal ton by debutant Prithvi Shaw on Thursday, Team India decimated the West Indies team. Attack on the second day as well. Both captain Virat Kohli and Ravindra Jadeja slammed centuries, piling up 649 for 9 in their first innings before declaring at tea. It was a maiden test ton for Jadeja in 37 tests. Rishabh Pant also made 92 of 84 balls to make it worse for the West Indies. Coming to bat, the West Indies team faced a tough challenge from the Indian bowling squad and were reduced to 94 for 6 in 29 overs when stumps were drawn for the day. Mohammad Shami bowled a fiery opening spell of 4 overs, giving just 5 runs and removing acting captain Craig Brathwaite and Kieran Powell to leave the West Indies at 2 for 7 in just 5th over. And that's all we have for you in this edition of News Tonight. For more news and updates, keep watching Rajya Sabha Television. Namaskar.